I would say the society had a lot of opportunities because, coming from Nigeria where there are opportunities, but because of bad leadership, it's as though there are no opportunities. But here, there were lots of opportunities, and then almost seeing people who have access to those opportunities not necessarily appreciating it as they ought to. In a way, that was something that I found really interesting. So I walked past someone, then, for some reason, the guy just turned and looked at me and made some really blatant and sort of racist words to me, like, nobody respects your time, your kind. Yeah. And then I remembered another time when the police officer pulled me over when I was driving home. And then he asked me why I walked in, blah, blah, blah. I told him. And then he was like, do I plan to bring my... Then, from my accent and all that, he knew I was a foreigner. Then he asked me, am I going to bring my family through chain migration to the US? Through chain migration, I remember that word. Because that time, Donald Trump was always talking about chain migration. So I think, many of them kind of stuck on their head. Because I was a student then, though. I needed the money. I cannot just let go of over $2,000. So I had to take him to court. The procedure that the Nigerian state used to effect his arrest broke a number of international laws, broke a number of international conventions. So, for example, you don't go and arrest somebody in a foreign country without directly requesting extradition. There are a number of things you have to put in, a number of, you put in like an Interpol red notice, all those kind, there are a number of things. And they just went into Kenya and just sort of kidnapped him, pretty much, put him in a private jet or whatever, and brought him to Nigeria.
Hello, and welcome to Lives of Lost Lagosians, a podcast covering topics about Lagosians, Nigerians, and Africans in and outside Africa. I'm your host, Brodda Mike. Today we have a very, very special guest with me. He's kind enough to join us. He's in the Western Hemisphere, just the Western United States. Really excited to have him on here. So again, he's a friend, someone that I've really been inspired by his story. And I thought it'd be nice to kind of bring his story out here and have him share with us how awesome he is. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hello, sir. Thank you for being here. If you don't mind introducing yourself to the audience.
All right. Well, my name is Brodda Johnson. Not necessarily a lost Lagosian. I would call myself a lost Abujan. Because
the only one lost Lagosians on it. You don't want lost Abujans. Is that even a thing, Abujan?
Well, folks that grew up in Abuja would call themselves Abujans. So.
Oh, they call it Abujans. Did not know that.
Well, I would say that I'm just forming that right now.
Of course, yes, smart. They make up your own words.
Yeah, exactly. But typically, at least when I was growing up, there in Abuja, they used to call themselves, Abuja boys and Abuja girls.
Okay. That I've heard. Abuja boy. Abujan is good though. Hey, why not?
Yeah, Abuja. Yeah.
Abujan is nice. Yeah, so we have a lost Abujan here. Hey, you guys, let us know. Is that what you guys call the Abuja people? Is it the Abujans? Tweet us at Lost Lagosian. Or you can send us an email at lostlegosian@gmail.com and let us know what you think. Okay. So if you're on YouTube, you can also leave a comment. Yeah, Lost Abujan. Okay, Brad Johnson, thank you for being here. How did you end up here from all the way in the middle of Nigeria?
Well, it's both a long story and a short story. But I'll try to keep it sort of like in between long and short, but
a medium story.
So I came to the US for the first time in 2016 when I and my family, we came for a visit. And that was the year that I concluded my NYSC. And, we stayed for give or take, I think 12 to 13 days.
Then you stayed for how many? 30 days?
13 days. Not that long.
Just 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's just 2 weeks.
Wow. That's short. Yeah. And then you went back.
Yeah, and then I went back,
Why? Why would you go back?
Because my brother, we know what disobey,
That's nice. That's
Yeah,
generous. Hey, so you guys listen, you all Americans, they're like, oh, them Nigerians come and don't want to go back. But Johnson here went back, so watch out. There are really, really good Nigerians that come and go back.
Yep. Yeah, so so I and my folks, we went back after we came and but then, coming to visit, prior to coming to visit, I had always desired, to come to the US. But the one thing that really prompted me to really strongly take the idea of coming to the US seriously was after I graduated. I studied chemical engineering in my undergrad in Nigeria. I worked in.
Was that Abuja too?
No, it was Niger Delta University. It's in southern Nigeria, Bayelsa State.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's so anyway, I went there. So after I graduated, so prior to graduating, I worked in oil and gas. I liked the industry, but after I graduated, I tried to sort of get into the industry. It was one of the most challenging places to get into.
Hold on. So you came here when you just finished your NYSC?
Yes.
Okay, then after your NYSC, you went back and you graduated. Was it a master's degree?
No. So what I was saying is that what I'm saying is prior to graduating from my master's, from my bachelor's degree, I worked in oil and gas, like IT.
As an undergrad.
Yeah.
What was IT? Industrial training.
Industrial training.
Yeah, I did that too. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So anyway, I liked it, but then after graduating,
it was hard to get into the full time.
It was hard to get into. It. So I and a friend of mine, we started a side hustle in Abuja, and that was a side hustle of installing solar panels. Right. We started the business. Then we would kind of contract it. We would kind of go around looking for folks who wanted to kind of pitch to them and say, hey, power is not reliable in Nigeria. Put like a 3 kilowatt solar panel in your roof. You would be able to at least have fun to cool you down during the heat.
Yeah, that's some real hustle though. Just going.
Oh yeah, it was. Doors. Yeah, it was. Actually, I wouldn't say we didn't necessarily knock on doors. It was kind of like so we knew people that worked in certain organizations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we worked for them. We helped them to install, and they themselves made recommendation, like talk to other people. Hey, I have this stuff, and word of mouth, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
And we're able to do it. I did it for like give and take. I did it from June 2016 to right till late 2017 when I came to the US. Anyway, so
year plus.
So while I was doing that, I met the minister of I believe it was called the Minister of IT or something. I forget his name.
Okay, I didn't know his Minister of IT
in Nigeria.
Maybe Minister of Information.
Minister. Yeah, it's I wouldn't call it Minister of
Technology.
Yeah, it's
information
Minister of Technology, something like that.
Yeah, that's how, because information in Nigeria means something else.
Yeah, information is like propaganda, sort of, for the
government.
Anyway, for the government.
Yeah.
The correct guy there, Lai Mohammed, he's
exactly propaganda comes in.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so I met him. And he called me that, hey, because somehow he heard about what I was doing, like, these young graduates, they are trying to make things for themselves. And I and my partners, went and made a pitch, they made all kinds of promises to us, but nothing materialized out of it.
Wow.
So seeing all of those things and all that, I slowly began to be disillusioned about the Nigerian system. And I just felt that I would be able to give myself more opportunity to succeed if I further my education outside of Nigeria. So that was where, so around that time, I began to aggressively look for scholarships, look for scholarships outside. And then I'll stay up to come to the US, look for scholarships, around, renewable energy and the rest of them. So And that was how I heard about the school I went to, Oregon Tech here in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
And, I applied to them, and then I got admitted, and then we sort of like a teaching assistantship and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was pretty much how I,
and the rest
came to the US. History. Yep, and the rest they say is history, So
how was your interview experience though?
The interview experience. Yeah, okay. So when I went for my interview, the first interview, it was in Abuja. The first interview I was actually denied because I was missing a document. So they denied me the visa. I was like, yep. They gave me the green paper.
Do you remember what document that was?
I think it was something that had to do with my bank account. They needed me to bring something out about my bank account.
Same school?
And I was missing it. So...
was it same school? First time, second time, the interview? Was it Oregon Tech?
Yeah, it was Oregon Tech.
So you didn't change school? Because some people after the first thing, they're like, oh, I need to change school just to switch things up.
No. I went to the same school. I went to the same thing, The idea was that they just needed me to show them my bank account, right? Because, I came in there and I was like, well, I'm employed, okay, well, I'm going to do this stuff with scholarship. If I come back, when I'm done, I'm going to come back to continue with my company. They're like, okay, well, we need to see like a bank account of your company, that kind of stuff. And that was missing, So after the interview, so I went back and then I was able to put together those documents and I registered again. Like less than 2 weeks later, I was able to book another interview. And when I went in this time, I told them, hey, I was here a few weeks ago. You guys denied me. This was why you denied me. This is the document you're looking for. They were like, okay, fine. They just took my passport and told me that they are going to, send me back my passport with the visa stamp in 3 or 4 days time. So I think it helped that I already had that history of coming to the US and then not
it can also hurt too.
It cannot. How do you mean?
Because they will tell you to go and stay there. You need more time to go and think about your life. Some people that will come to embassy and then. But I remember when I went, it took me 3 attempts. So.
Wow.
And they would just be like, "You're not ready." Then they started doing like this 6-month thing. So when they refuse, you have to wait for 6 months. So you couldn't go back 2 weeks. The 2 weeks you went back, did you have a date for that second week, or how did that work?
Well, after the first one was denied, I just went in there and I just registered, right? After I paid everything, after I got, in fact, it was the very next day after I had worked with my bank and gotten the whole paperwork and everything, I just went in and I registered for another interview.
You don't have time for nonsense. Someone like you. Let's get this over with, man. No time.
I was definitely ready to leave Nigeria, so I wasn't going to take. And,
what was your experience though coming over here? You came here, didn't know anybody, or you stayed with someone for a little bit?
Yeah, so the first 6 months of my stay here. So prior to coming here, a family friend connected me to a friend that lives here in Portland. And then when I came in, I stayed with them for 5 plus to 6 months. And then after a while, after I stayed with them for that time, and then I kind of knew my way around the area. Then I, eventually went and I got my place that was closer to the school. Initially, when I was living with them, they were like really far away from my school. And then I would have to take like a bus for like 1 hour and 30 minutes and all that to go to school. But, I enjoyed living with them because at least, sometimes when you go to a place for the first time, it's always a good idea to be around familiar faces, So it was helpful to me, that initial stage of settling in, knowing the bus routes, understanding the culture, knowing your way around the place, knowing the lingo and all of that. It was really helpful that I had someone here to kind of show me around.
That's good.
So
what's the cultural changes that you think you can see between being in Nigeria and given that you just left recently versus now?
I think the biggest thing for me initially then was just the coming in, and I saw a lot of I would say the society had a lot of opportunities because coming from Nigeria where there are opportunities, but because of bad leadership, it's as though there are no opportunities. But here, there were lots of opportunities, and then almost seeing people who have access to those opportunities not necessarily appreciating it as they ought to. In a way, that was something that I found really interesting. So also, I remembered one day I was about to enter into the Max in North Portland, and then I was rushing them to go to work. That was like probably 5 or 6 months after I came in. Yeah. So anyway, I met someone. Actually, I didn't meet someone. So someone just walked. So I walked past someone. Then, for some reason, the guy just turned and looked at me and made some really blatant and sort of racist words to me, like, nobody respects your time. Wow. Your kind. So
that's wrong.
When he said it to me, I was like, oh my goodness. Mm-hmm. Yeah, whatever. So I just brought it out. And then I remembered another time when the police officer pulled me over when I was driving in the evening. And then he asked me where I walked in, blah, blah, blah. I told him. And then he was like, oh, do I plan to bring my, then, from my accent and all that, he knew I was a foreigner. Then he asked me, am I going to bring my family through chain migration? To the US.
Really. Going to bring family through chain migration.
Through chain migration. I remember that word. That was, those were two of the nastiest experiences I had in my first year. It was just nasty.
What was the second one again?
So the first one was when that man said that racist thing to me on the Max, and the second one is when the police officer.
He said we know your type on the train.
Yeah, that was the first one, and the second one was when the police officer was asking me if I was going to bring my family to the US through my chain migration, that kind. Because that time Donald Trump was always talking about chain migration. So I think, many of them kind of stuck on their head. So they were just, so, but, ultimately I would say so far so good, it's.
Well, congratulations on your successes. And chain migration is that point when one person comes, they bring the other person.
Yeah, and then the other person brings the other person. But, if you think about it, like, it's not a good, if as a man you are being successful, if you really want to enjoy life, you would have to help other people to be successful. Because if you are the only one that is abroad, my brother, your whole family issue is going to be on your head. So ultimately, if you have the chance to, you would want to help other people in your family so that some of the burdens on your shoulder will be lightened.
And by helping them, you alleviate. By helping them, you alleviate your own problems too. By helping them, you make your problems lighter.
Yeah, you make your problems lighter.
So then they can start doing something because they are earning dollars. They're working just like you.
Yeah. So.
Wow. So, yeah. That's a good experience and good story. What's your worst story so far?
My worst story?
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't think of. Actually, I used to have, when I was a student, I used to have a roommate that was really weird. And, because when I rented the unit, I had this roommate. So I was the primary, in the unit. And I had this roommate who, since I was a primary, I'm responsible for paying the rent. I'll collect it from other people and pay. And then one of them didn't want to pay me for like 2 or 3 months or something. And then, and then eventually I kept on reaching out, say, hey man, you gotta please, And he didn't want to. And then eventually he moved out of the house. And then after he moved out of the house, I had to because I was a student then, though. I needed the money. I cannot just let go of over $2,000. So I had to take him to court, to a small claims court. I took him to a small claims court, and I was able to get my money back.
Oh, so the judge gave him a judgment.
Yeah, the judge awarded me the.
So how would he pay that? I mean, the judge usually don't have any teeth. They just say pay this guy, be nice.
Well, I think he didn't want to have some kind of a strike on his record, because the funny thing there is that when I sued him when I took it to a judge, he countersued. He was like that since I was asking him for the money, that it was harassment. So he countersued me for 10,000. You'll be surprised. Obviously, there was.
That's only an American story. How much did you sue him for?
I sued him for exactly what he was owing me, 2,000.
And it times 5.
Yeah.
That's an American for you, proper American. Yeah. But in light of everything going on in Nigeria, I mean, what are your thoughts? With you leaving, do you think if you were there now you'd have left? Or if you compare Nigeria today and Nigeria when you left, just 6 years ago now?
Well, Nigeria.
What's the difference?
The last time I went to Nigeria was in 2019. I'll be going to Nigeria possibly. I mean, I've told you, right? We've kind of had a conversation outside of this podcast. I'll be visiting Nigeria sometime soon. But in 2019, when I visited, things had taken a turn for the worse. So right now, so when I was coming, the dollar to naira exchange rate was right around $350, 250 naira to $1. As of yesterday, it's pretty much doubled. As of yesterday, it was retailing at $719 naira to $1.
Wow.
So the inflation is pretty much like 105% already between then and now.
Wow.
While I was living in Nigeria, I think a loaf of bread was around like 300 naira or 350. Right now, the last time I checked, it was close to like 900 naira. Cool. So, so inflation is ravaging the country. Insecurity is like the order of the day. While I was in Nigeria, Abuja used to be quite secured. The city where I lived in used to be quite secure. But now it's almost like, open season out there, kidnappings.
In the lights.
Broad daylight kidnappings. So it's the security situation has deteriorated. The economy has deteriorated. A lot of things have just gone bad. A lot of things.
That's an understatement.
A lot of things. But we are hoping that the hope that I have is that Peter Obi, who is the current, presidential candidate for the Labour Party, who, some foreign, pollsters are kind of putting it that he is the leading candidate. We are hoping that they are correct and that he eventually wins the election, because the idea is that if he wins the election, I don't think he's going to do a miracle or something. But I believe that the decadence at the top, that incompetency at the top that have made things to just go so bad, at least it will be arrested.
Just arrest it so it doesn't get worse at the minimum.
So it doesn't get worse. So that's my thought. But Nigeria is there is a lot to be desired out of it right now. It leaves a lot to be desired. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking online and they say Peter Obi got 72%, 72%.
72, yeah.
As the first choice.
Yep. For those that are decided.
Yeah, that's a lot. And he's a third-party candidate.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
While Tinubu got 16% and Atiku got 9%. This is from a data on Bloomberg. This article there is, from this article is dated September 28, 2022. And Bloomberg is showing him, this source is from Premise Data. That's the source of this You probably Google it up on Bloomberg.com and you find it, or search it on Bloomberg.com and you find it. Yeah, but overall, I mean, I think what you're saying is right. Although recently it seems like Nnamdi Kanu just got released.
Yes. He just got he wasn't really released. So the court, what the court did was that
they acquitted him.
So of course, obviously I'm not a lawyer, right? But I read the brief of the judgment, and the ruling of the judge was that the procedure that the Nigerian state used to effect his arrest broke a number of international laws, broke a number of international conventions. So, for example, like you don't go and arrest somebody in a foreign country without directly requesting extradition. There are a number of things you would have to put in, a number of, you put in like an Interpol red notice, all those kind, there are a number of things. And they just went into Kenya and just sort of kidnapped him, pretty much, put him in a private jet or whatever, and brought him to Nigeria. So the basis of the ruling was that the Nigerian state, that the action of the Nigerian state in arresting him was illegal. So as a result of that, their case, they have no case, because you cannot arrest somebody illegally and then bring the person before the law and then expect the law to administer justice. So it was kind of a procedural judgment. But the so-called Attorney General of the Federation, a gentleman that goes by the name Malami, he's one of the people that I have the least fondness for in the current administration. He said that Nnamdi Kanu was discharged but not acquitted. So and that's the thing, this is the problem with Nigeria. This is the problem of the current, leadership in Nigeria. They have no respect for the rule of law, as long as it does not sink to their tune. Now, for example, there have been a number of groups like some of these bandits or so-called Boko Haram members who claim to be repentant, right? Many of them have been released and integrated back into society, and some of them, after they were released and integrated, so they were caught in like a sting operation of the army. And then, they were trialed, and then they went in and they said, oh, we are repentant, blah, blah, blah. And then the Nigerian government released them. And many of them that were released have gone back to their old ways. So the problem is, yes.
I was just reading what's the judgments of the court here, saying that Nigeria is a signatory of the Organization of the OAU Convention, which, by the way, Nigeria ratified in April 2022, as well as the Charter of Human and People's Rights, which it said prescribed that a wanted person could be transferred from one country to another. It held that any extradition request must have been in writing.
Yes.
With a statement indicating offenses for such a person that is wanted. The employee court held that the FG's action tainted the entire proceeding it initiated against Kanu and amounted to have an abuse of criminal prosecution in general. Basically, they abused the criminal prosecution process. It now says the court will never shy away from calling those in the executive arms of government to order when it tilts towards executive recklessness. Wow.
I love those words.
I mean, those guys, they just finished them. They finished
them.
They
finished them.
Yeah. How can you say executive recklessness?
Yeah, that's the thing. It was just a pure act of executive recklessness, because the thing is, Nnamdi Kanu and his IPOB group, whatever anybody has to say about them and all that, they were, obviously somebody could say, when anybody challenges the government of a country, you have an issue and all that. But the point is that they were not necessarily a threat, a security threat to the Nigerian state, as much as the other pressing issues like the bandits, the Boko Haram terrorists, and all of these people. And they were given, they were given such a level of they were given such a level of attention that they didn't necessarily deserve.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So anyway, like I was saying, I was talking about, you know, some of these bandits and all of that, some of them that were caught and were released back in society. So ultimately, you know, the Nigerian state under its current leadership is misguided. And
it's failing.
You know,
Wow. Yeah, no, that's very good. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Just for spending time with us. I think we're gonna just leave it at that. I think that, you know, like you were saying, people should go vote. Their vote is empowered, and also your vote. And then 2023 February, when everybody cast their votes, we pray that the rule of law prevail, and that the true the true person that people wanted is the one that gets elected. No need for blood shedding, no need for violence, no need for all of that. Just a matter of being compassionate to one another, and more importantly, following the rule of law. No, thank you so much, Mr. Johnson. Any final thoughts as we wrap up?
Well, I guess one final thought I have is that, you know, any Nigerian that is listening to this podcast, please, those of you who have got to your PVC, please ensure that you go stand out in the line during.
Yeah, don't be playing soccer. No, February. I think February.
Not November. February when?
I think February 25. I'm not sure about that.
February 25, not November, obviously. Yeah, that was it. Yeah. So February 25, 2023, please go out there, line up, and when you vote, don't vote based on your belly. Vote based on your conscience. Vote for a president that you know that you will be willing to give the next decade of your life to. Because whoever it is that is going to get into office is going to be there for the next decade. So that's my closing thought.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Thank you for our fans for following us. We are officially a year old. Been going strong every week for 1 year. But I want to thank you guys for supporting the podcast. And please go ahead and tell us more about podcast. Share the word. Until next time. Thank you guys. Bye now.